Welcome to Witches in Yoga Pants, your cozy corner of the cosmos where modern magic meets everyday life. We're here to explore magic, mindfulness, and personal growth with a grounded, no-fluff vibe. Whether you're into moon rituals, tarot spreads, or just trying to survive Mercury retrograde, you are in the right place. So get ready to disrupt some old patterns, explore what it means to reclaim your power, and remember who you really are. So pull up your yoga mat, light a candle, and let's get into it. Well, hello and welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. Today, we're closing out this 3-part series on masculine archetypes. And we're moving into 4 energies that tend to carry a different kind of energy. If the first episode felt like foundation and identity, and the second moved into change, disruption, and creation, this one leans into leadership, perspective, and integration. There's a different kind of steadiness. It's less about becoming something new and more about recognizing what has already been built. Before we begin, I want to come back one more time to the foundation we've been working with throughout this series. These archetypes are not roles that you need to step into. They're not fixed identities, and they're not something you either are or are not. They are patterns of energy, ways of being that move through you at different times in your life. You may recognize one of these as something you've grown into. You may feel one becoming more present right now. Or you may notice moments where you move in and out of them, depending on what life is asking of you. You don't arrive here and stay. You move between these energies as life continues to shift and evolve. So, as you listen today, stay in that same place of noticing what feels familiar, what feels present, and what feels like something that has become more solid within you over time. Today, we're exploring the warrior, the sage, the mentor, and the elder. Let's begin with the warrior. The warrior is the energy of action and protection. This is where clarity becomes movement, where something you know to be true begins to show up in how you act, how you speak, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. You may notice this energy when something that used to feel manageable no longer does, when a boundary that you've avoided setting becomes unavoidable. When you feel a sense of direction that pushes you to take action, even if that action feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. There's a shift here from thinking about what needs to change to actually doing something about it. And that shift can feel confronting because action requires commitment. It requires you to follow through on what you already know. You may notice this energy when you begin saying things more directly, when you stop over-explaining your decisions, when you take steps that reflect your values, even if they're not understood by everyone around you. There's discipline here and focus. It's a willingness to stay with something long enough to see it through. But the warrior is not about force. In a grounded expression, this energy is precise. It knows when to act and when to hold. It protects what matters without becoming reactive or aggressive. In a more strained expression, this energy can come through as urgency, as needing to act quickly, defend constantly, or push harder than necessary. But at its core, the warrior is about honoring truth through action. Next, we move into sage. The sage is the energy of perspective. This is where things begin to settle, where you're able to step back and see more clearly. There's less urgency here, less need to immediately fix or respond. There's more space and awareness, more ability to understand what's actually happening beneath the surface. You might notice this energy when situations that once pulled you in emotionally begin to feel different. And it's not because you don't care, but because you can see more. You can see the patterns, the context. You can see how things connect. There is a kind of quiet clarity here. The sage doesn't need to rush into action. He takes in information, he observes, he allows understanding to form before responding. You may notice this in yourself when you just are feeling less reactive, when you can pause instead of immediately responding, when you're able to hold multiple perspectives without needing to resolve them right away. This energy can feel very grounded, but it can also feel unfamiliar if you're used to moving quickly or reacting automatically. In a grounded expression, the sage is thoughtful, clear, and able to hold complexity without becoming overwhelmed. In a more strained expression, this energy can become overanalytical, detached, or disconnected from emotion. But at its core, the sage is about understanding and allowing that understanding to inform how you move. From there, we move into the mentor. The mentor is the energy of guidance. This is where what you've lived, what you've experienced, and what you've come to understand begins to extend outward. And it's not because you're trying to teach, but because it naturally shows up in how you relate to others. You might notice this energy when people begin coming to you for your perspective, when you find yourself offering insight in a way that feels grounded and supportive, when you're able to sit with someone else's experience without needing to fix it, but still offering something that helps them see more clearly. There's a shift here from focusing only on your own path to recognizing how your experience can support others in theirs. And that shift tends to happen naturally. It doesn't require you to position yourself as an authority. It shows up in how you listen, how you respond, and how you share what you've learned. There's a generosity here, but there's restraint because the mentor understands that guidance is not about directing someone else's life. It's about offering perspective and allowing them to choose what they do with it. In a grounded expression, the mentor is patient, supportive, and respectful of others' timing and process. In a more strained expression, this energy can become overly directive, attached to being needed, or invested in being right. But at its core, the mentor is about offering guidance without taking away someone else's agency. And finally, we come to the elder. The elder is the energy of integration. This is where everything you've moved through begins to settle into something more complete. There's less striving here. There's no pushing, no need to prove or achieve. There's more acceptance and clarity. There's more trust in what has already been lived and learned. You may notice this energy when you feel a sense of completion around certain parts of your life, when things that once felt urgent no longer do, when you're comfortable with endings, with letting go, with allowing things to be what they are. There's a confidence here, not the kind that needs to be seen or validated, but the kind that comes from experience, from having moved through enough to trust yourself in a deeper way. You may notice this in how you make decisions, in how you relate to change, in how you hold both what has worked and what hasn't without needing to rewrite it. In a grounded expression, the elder is steady, reflective, and deeply rooted in experience. In a more strained expression, this energy can feel withdrawn, disengaged, or disconnected. But at its core, the elder is about integration, allowing your lived experience to become something you can stand on. You may also notice that these four tend to build on each other in a different way than the previous episodes. The warrior brings action, the sage brings understanding, the mentor brings connection and guidance, and the elder brings integration. And while it might not always move in that exact sequence, there's often a natural progression from doing to understanding to sharing to integrating. And as we close out this series, you may notice that these archetypes feel more settled. It's less about becoming something new and more about recognizing what's already there. And at the same time, none of this is final. You may move back into earlier archetypes in new ways. You may flow in and out of female and masculine archetypes. You may find yourself exploring, questioning, or creating again from a different level of awareness. That's part of the process. This is not about arriving somewhere. It's about recognizing yourself more clearly as you continue to move through different phases of your life. Until next time, trust the clarity that has been building within you, honor what you know without needing to explain it, and allow your own experience to guide how you move forward. Take what you've heard today even further by joining my newsletter community. Each week, you'll receive journal prompts and reflections connected to the episode that are designed to guide you in bringing these conversations off the podcast and into your own journey. Let's keep going deeper together. The link is waiting for you below.